Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with the line habit. Bye, bye. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate the support. I'm very humbled by it. I just had some stupid ass geek tell me, stay out of their business. That's their kid. That's their business. Yeah, but also when they get arrested, and when you put your story out there for the public, that's everybody's business. There's a child missing. You should be focused on that more so than hating on the gun. Bang, bang. Let's get to the update on this story, man. This is a big story going on out there in San Bernardino County in Yucaipa, right? Where you have this mother and father, these parents pleading for help, putting on the greatest show on earth, right? The greatest act I've ever seen, the greatest performance. Hey, Ray Charles can see through that bullshit. Stevie Wonder knows that they're lying, okay? There's no ribbon in the sky. There is no missing child other than at the hands of these parents, okay? Allegedly, some Mexican national, Mr. Ola, snatched this baby, knocked this mother out and snatched this baby from her at the Big Five Sporting Goods in Yucaipa. But let's dig a little bit deeper because there's been a lot of developments. First and foremost, I'll tell you, the investigators have pretty much, the detectives, they've ceased all investigation rather than just focusing on the parents. That's what they're doing now. They're focusing on the parents. They've stopped the search. They've brought cadaver dogs to the home of the parents. And there has been allegedly, not confirmed, but people are saying that blood was found on the scene, basically at the home. Now, they have not found a body. They have not found anything that resembles a body yet. There's people putting out misinformation that a body's been found of a child nearby, and it could quite possibly be the same child. I'm here to tell you that's false. That's just people out there capitalizing and utilizing this situation to make money. The truth of the matter is, these parents are as dirty gets. Okay, the father has an extensive criminal history. Okay, he was given 72 months. Of course, they ended up giving him probation. He got a little bit of love, right, for a child cruelty case. So it's not like this guy is new to this. This guy has priors of doing bad things to children, his own specifically, right? There's also another story going around that he did such damage to a child that his child has not been the same since, that his child has developed brain damage. I don't know that to be true, but if that's the case, man, his sister should be ashamed of him going on in social media trying to speak up in behalf of her brother. Now, maybe she's not in the know. Maybe she doesn't know and she's just doing the sisterly thing. But his sister did put out a video basically telling the story and trying to tell people to leave them alone. You know, they're grieving, they're going through stuff. First of all, you don't grieve if your child is just missing. You get on the hunt and you go out there and you look for your child. You don't stay in the home. You don't refuse help. You don't lawyer up. You don't ask the detectives to leave you alone. You go out there like the Mad Hatter and you start kicking fucking doors down to find out where your child's at. At least that's how people like me think. Now, with this father's criminal history, he's definitely going to be a suspect. Now, the mother, I believe, in my personal opinion, she was either directly involved in the unaliving of this child, because I do not believe this child's alive. This is just my own personal opinion. I hope the child is alive. I hope the child is found. I hope the child ends up just on a doorstep somewhere. Somebody sees this. And maybe if this really is true and this just bad acting on their part, or they just don't know how to act because they're in shock, hopefully it all resolves itself. But I doubt it. I highly doubt it. In fact, I feel that an arrest is imminent. I feel they'll be arrested pretty quickly here. The DNA, if the DNA matches, the blood is the baby's, that's definitely going to point the finger at them and make them look worse. Now, let me get down to the brass tacks of the story. And let me tell you how, as an investigator, if the investigators and detectives, and I'm sure they're doing their job, think right, they can get down and figure this out quick. First of all, the timeline of the story is this. The mother and father claim that they went to the father's other child's game, an athletic game, right? Where the mother of the other child, basically his baby's mom, and her boyfriend were present. Okay. At some point, this kid needed a mouth guard. So his old lady decided to run to Big Five real quick to get a mouth guard. Now, sounds feasible, could happen, right? First of all, don't you get a mouth guard? You got to dip it in hot water so you can form and fit it. But I understand it's a last minute thing. He wants to play, go run and grab him and get him a mouth guard. The mom doesn't look too intelligent. The dad definitely doesn't. He looks less intelligent, right? So she claims to go to Big Five Sporting Goods where she's changing the diaper of the baby because the baby went to the bathroom in his diaper or went, and as she's leaning in the car, and I've seen mothers do this, so it's not a crazy story. I've seen mothers, just change their kid right there real quick. She claims someone came up, she heard the word hola, which is trying to allude to him being a Mexican national or some type of raza, right? And next thing you know, she's getting knocked out. Now, funny thing is, the black eye that she's got, that she's talking about, she received from this hola guy, right? That black eye is not new. That's an old ass black eye. I've given and got plenty of black eyes in my lifetime. And that black eye is not new. Neither is the other one she has, because you can see she has one that's several weeks old on her other eye. And this one looks 3 to 4 days old. It's already turning yellow, which means it's starting to heal. There's been people that have been talked to. There's been someone that has come forward that says that this woman, 3 days prior to this alleged story she's telling about Mr. Ola snatching her kid, right? That she had that same black eye when it was fresh at that appointment. You can't say you got what happened. She got a black eye on top of another black eye. We all know who did the black eye. We're pretty sure we figured that one out, right? Second of all, 3 days prior to this incident happening in the Big Five Sporting Goods parking lot, the parents, which of course are Rebecca Haro and her old man, right? Mr. Haro, they walked into Big Five Sporting Goods, seen on camera, and they were asking the person who worked at the store if there was cameras in that parking lot because their car had been broken into. Now, is it a coincidence? Is Big Five the only fucking store in Yucaipa? Or is it just they were already premeditating, plotting and planning and trying to figure out a spot to do or to make up this alleged story? If you start putting the puzzle pieces together, it's not hard to figure out. Okay, so that in itself right there is very suspect. Now, if the investigators were smart, which I'm pretty sure they are, right? They would interview the other baby mom and her boyfriend and figure out if this kid was truly at the game. I'll tell you right now, anyone that covers for them, anyone that decides that they want to continue with this story and this narrative that they're putting out and assist them could be charged in aiding and abetting a felony murder case if it comes out that this baby was unalive. Now, I believe, this is what I believe. I believe that household right there, that man that's in that household that has a prior history, a criminal history. Some people are even speculating that he's a Mexican national and that he was not even supposed to be there and that he's illegal. Look, I don't know if that's to be the case. I know for sure he was on probation for some bad cases. How he got a slap on the wrist? Well, I've seen it happen a lot of times to dudes who do things to children. They get a slap on the wrist. Regardless of that, he was in that household, and I believe they got into some type of domestic issue, hence the black eyes. And I can see that woman's been going through domestic issues because she has prior injuries and black eyes. They need to really look into her medical history and see how many black eyes she's had in the last few years residing with this guy, right? But regardless of that, I believe somewhere in the midst of that, the child became involved to some degree. And I believe this father or this mother did something to this child, whether it was accidental or on purpose, probably on purpose, dealing with the guy who already has prior cases to hitting children. And the baby was unalived or injured very bad. And they panicked and they got rid of him and they came up with this story. Now, if the baby is found safe, no harm, no foul, right? You always got to put suspicion on someone. You always got to be leery and weary of what's going on in people's stories because there's no emotion that's being shown. And now subsequently, these parents have lawyered up. They've lawyered up. Look, that's all good to do it the legal way. You lawyer up in most situations, especially in situations you know you're guilty of, right? You got to have a lawyer to speak for you on your behalf, and that's just the smart thing to do. But when your child is missing, fuck the lawyering up, forget the lie detector test. I don't care about none of that. Let's find my child. The detectives are focused solely on these parents. They do not buy this bullshit story. None of us buy this bullshit story. I think we all are at the point right now where we don't believe shit that that woman and that man say. I don't believe shit his sister said. I believe ultimately, man, the woman is in fear, whether she is guilty of doing something. She's guilty now for backing the story up. You know, she looks like she comes from a long line of domestic violence in that household. And that guy right there, man, is applying pressure. She is scared of him. She looks like a scared woman. The cool part is every picture I've seen of that child, Emmanuel Harrell, who was missing, um, that child didn't look healthy. He didn't look happy. He wasn't a happy baby. Now, there's been a lot of people speculating that he had, that he was, he was born with mental issues or slow. Regardless, I have a niece that's born like that. I have homeboys that have kids that are born like that. And them babies smile. Them babies are happy. Them babies are healthy. That poor boy did not look healthy. This is giving me a baby. What was his name? Gabriel vibes. You know, two parents, man, that probably were overwhelmed and fed up with having to deal with the kid that had, issues and just didn't want to either deal with it no more, or this was something that happened in the midst of domestic violence. You know, I understand this woman trying to cover for her old man. What women will do for dick, right? It's crazy. That's what my mom used to say. My jefita, she used to always say, damn, women will do anything for pipa. They'll do anything. They'll lie. They'll let these guys hurt their kids. They'll sell their own kids. You know, it's just wild. It's a wild situation. You know, a lot of people are focused on this. I don't think these people thought it was going to become national news. They didn't think it was going to become this big. They didn't think everybody was going to talk about it. But they're now understanding that it's a lot bigger when a child is involved than they thought. Now, do I believe an arrest is imminent? I do. I believe these detectives need to apply pressure. Now they've lawyered up, and so they're no longer discussing anything with the detectives. But that doesn't matter, because if the lawyers feel that these parents had something to do with it, they're going to be relentless until they figure something out. They're not going to get away with this. Someone's going to slip up. You know, there's too many people that were at that game to talk to and investigate. So many parents. There's been a lot of parents that have been talked to that don't recall seeing the baby at the game. Okay, the baby never was at the game. In this day and age of everyone having cell phones and recording, best believe there was a lot of people and parents there that were recording their kids playing that game. So there's a lot of footage that the detectives will go through. There's a lot of questions that will be answered and unanswered. We know who's unanswering them right now, and that's the parents. Okay, Emmanuel's parents have decided to basically impede the fucking investigation to their own child. You know, I've heard stories that the other children that are in the home have been removed from the home. I don't know if that's true, but that would probably be the smart thing to do, because when you back someone into a situation when they know they have no way out, being the father and the mother, you know, there's been times when fathers have went crazy and they just unalived everyone in themselves. They couldn't take it anymore. This seems like the kind of guy that does not want to go to jail. With his prior history and convictions, he knows it's all bad in prison for him. These are not the type of charges where you walk freely on the main line. These are the type of charges where you go into prison, and the police officers that work there, the correctional officers and people are going to treat you different. Very different, right? So at the end of the day, these are not allegations you should make on someone if they're not true. There's a lot of people that do. You know, there's a lot of kids that say things, and there's no truth to it. But there's also times when there is. And in this case, this poor baby, 7 months old, could not speak out and help himself. Now, if the despicable ass sister, and I only call her despicable because, man, I can see right through her veil. I can see right through her bullshit story. If she is just trying to back her brother up and help her brother out, she's just as guilty as them. Okay? If these parents are arrested for this crime and they go through and if we find out that they find the baby or whatever, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to catch all day, every day, especially because they're making the city of Yucaipa, feel the pressure. People are concerned. You're scared. People haven't even focused on that angle. You know, if there's someone out there, if really, literally, there's someone out there taking kids, man, you got the people, the community, scared, you know, to have their children outside because there's someone walking around, Mr. Ola, that's taking kids. Look, there's no way this woman got socked up and didn't see who did it to her. Okay. He said Ola and then hit her, but she's hit from the front. He couldn't have did that from the back. She would have at least seen something. It's a perfect story that isn't so perfect, right? They didn't think it out. They went to that Big Five Sporting Goods and they went to go look and see if there was any cameras so they could try to pull a fast one off. I guarantee the detectives will find this child. I guarantee the detectives will fucking arrest these parents. It's a fact. They're guilty of sin, right? We'll see if they're able to do their job. Now, I'll say this, as far as them calling off the search and having cadaver dogs, they are going to turn that place upside down. They're going to dig hole after hole because there is something alerting them to that backyard. And usually through the history of detectivism, and we know what's up with detectives, they pretty much know already what time it is. They pretty much have keyed in. Someone is going to snitch. Someone's going to say something, whether that chick does it on the unders through her lawyer or the father tries to blame the mother, which is what happens in cases when you got a sick individual. She'll back him up because she's in love with the pipa, and he'll turn on her and blame her for it. It's usually how it goes down. It's a big case, man. It's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone is wondering what happened to 7-month-old Emmanuel. I'm going to tell you what happened to him. He was born and brought into this world by bad parents. You know, every picture I seen, that kid was not happy. Even when the picture of his mother holding him, he did not look happy. And these people showing no emotion, not fucking shedding tears, it makes a person like myself who's a parent sick to their stomach because you can see through the bullshit. Everyone knows what time it is. Anyways, with all this being said, man, they have found blood. Now, they haven't said if it's related to the child or if it's just blood, but they have found blood in the backyard. These cadaver dogs have keyed in on something in that backyard, and detectives are digging holes. Now, the mother and father lawyered up, so they will not have to answer any more questions unless they are arrested. Everything will go through their lawyer. The mother was offered a polygraph test, which if she was smart, she would have taken because a polygraph test cannot be used against you in the court of law if you are found to be lying. It could only be used for your defense if you're found innocent, right? Usually what happens is if they administer a lie detector test and you pass it, then they won't even charge you because you've passed it. They'll maybe re-administer it a couple times, but if you continue to pass it and it keys in on you telling the truth, then you'll be good. Why wouldn't this mother want to do anything she could that would eliminate them looking at her so that they can go out there and find her kid? Well, of course she don't want that because there's some icky, tricky stuff going on. Look, when I heard that they went to the Big Five Sporting Goods 3 days before and asked about cameras, it was over. That cemented it. That put the nail in the coffin for me. You already know what it is. Continue to watch the coverage on all the social media, man, about this because people are coming with different angles. The people that are lying and putting too much on it and saying baby body parts were found and all this, come on, man, stop it. This is a child we're talking about here. Let's be real. Let's just stick to the facts. The facts of this case is the mother and the father put on a fucking performance and press conference that didn't fool anyone. The facts are that the investigators are keying in on them and they are major suspects in the case. And one more fact, and it's not fact yet or fiction, but it will be fact soon. There's an imminent arrest coming, and I guarantee those parents are at the bottom tail of that. Anyways, with that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people, man. Let's keep this kid in our prayers, you know, and if this actually is the truth, if these parents are telling the truth, man, I send my deepest sorries. I'm sorry, right? But come on, man. Your gut just tells you, doesn't it? Mine does as a parent. These people are filthy. The gun.